Hello, Danielle Sissons. I am very excited to talk to you today. You are the founder of Ivey Financial Planning, and you help mums and founders really take control of that financial wealth piece. And as I always say, wealth is health, the other way around, health is wealth, something like that. And having gone on a bit of a journey on the financials myself, I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. So why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me on. It's really lovely to meet you. So I'm Danielle. As you said, I'm the founder of Ivey Financial Planning. I've been in the financial services world for about 12 years now. I was a weird little kid who knew they wanted to be a financial advisor about 50.
Early.
Yeah, there's not many of us. There's not many of us that kind of decide that early on that it's the route for us. So I started quite early, and over the years I kind of worked through, learnt my trade, got qualified, and it was a couple of years ago my little baby girl, baby Grace, was born, and that was the real catalyst for the biggest change in my life, to be completely honest. Change in work, change obviously in becoming a mother, and really combining the two and channeling my work into trying to help other mothers.
Love that. And it is something that women aren't, this is the worst thing to say, women aren't very good at it. That's not right. Women typically put everybody else's needs first, right? So also we're usually the primary caregiver, not always. But one thing I've certainly seen in the workplace is that women don't ask for money in the same way that men do. That's, again, a blanket statement, but
Yeah, statistically
speaking, that's the situation that I have to be so careful now, because sometimes I'm like, no, women need more, and then other times I'm like, well, no, we're really great at this actually.
Yeah.
So usually it's that we're really great, but we need some help and some tools and maybe a bit more confidence around money, and it's so important, isn't it? And I know personally I've been absolutely shocking with money historically. Then becoming a mum and also running your own business, you can't really be shocking at money. You need to kind of grab it by the horns, don't you? So what led you to supporting? Was it having your own child and running your own business, or was there always maybe a little bit of a niggle inside that was like, there's more I can do here?
Absolutely a combination of the two. I think over the few years, and you said the exact word that I harp on about all the time, confidence, because we say statistically speaking, women invest less. We are worth less in terms of a net worth way of speaking. We have less money, but we live longer. We need more money to keep us going. But when you actually dig down into a lot of the experiments, we're actually better with money compared to male counterparts in the same study. So it's really, really fascinating where this kind of misconception of women aren't good with money has come from, because we are. But it's like you say, our order of importance tends to be very different. So we tend to make sure, a bit like you hear the studies about applying for jobs, women try to be 100% of the criteria before applying. Men tend to hit 50-60% before they apply.
Yeah.
And it's the same with investing, saving. Women try to make sure that everything is covered, the whole household is covered and okay and safe, and then whatever's left over is what's saved or invested or put towards that holiday or the school uniform that is going to be coming up.
Yeah, I've got to order that soon. Yeah.
But it's all these little things that actually chip away at our ability to save. And then when you add in things like being paid less and, the impact to our pensions when we go on maternity or come back part-time or change our hours or have caring needs for the older generation, all these things come into it. And went off on a tangent there, bringing it back.
No, I love it. No, I'm really fascinated because I think it's a structural problem, isn't it? Because we have been historically the primary caregiver, we therefore
freedom or
right
control or the ability to take control, right? It's only like our grandparents that would have had the ability to get a mortgage, to open a bank account.
Yeah.
So what we're doing in our generations is actually quite incredible when you think about the timeframes involved.
And there is a shift, isn't there? Because I think, if you look at the sort of polarised opinions of Emma Grede, for example, she's always quite clear about, the financial wealth and support that she wants for herself and her family. But if you also go back a bit further, Beyonce was like, we need to be financially independent. Because I think, again, historically, you just go back to the Industrial Revolution, men went out to work and women stayed at home as the housewife. We therefore didn't have that access, but arguably the money was ours. And so that shifted as women have then gone for career over being at home, and we've got nursery and all those different things. I think that's definitely where, you know, a big wealth gap comes from.
And this is something I've seen over the last decade, you know. Financial advice, typically you're working with a higher net worth individual, family, and time again it was a client would come forward, you'd start working with them, it would be the husband. And it was always very heteronormative, it was always very male-led. And, you know, I've worked with some really incredible advisors, and some of these old habits are just ingrained into the process where there's not that pushback for, let's bring your wife into this conversation. You know, we're talking about what the next 5, 10, 15 years of your life looks like, what the plans for your children are, what the plans for your retirement are, what it looks like, really painting out this whole life without 50% of the partnership there.
I feel that so deeply because I wasn't invited to one of those meetings, and I kicked off at my husband, who was obviously mortified when I mentioned it. And he was like, I'm so sorry, I just didn't think. And I was like, that is the problem, that we don't think. It's almost ingrained, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's largely reflective of the fact there are so few females in financial advice, in the kind of more senior roles especially. You know, I think financial advisors at the moment, I think we're sitting at 13% are female. And then
Danielle, do you have a finance bro gilet? I want to see that city video.
I know the dance routine.
Yeah, we've got to see that on socials.
I'll see what I can do. I can get out to St Paul's and whip out some. It's this underrepresentation that really is reflected in the kind of systemic processes and problems we see within the industry. And then it was that moment kind of coming back where even after a decade working in finance, I was suddenly on the phone to the HMRC for an hour and a half trying to get my head around childcare hours and what the cut-off for applying was to have it for the term starting after the 9th month of my daughter's birth. Or like, it's just unnecessarily complicated. And I remember feeling so stressed and trying to navigate flexible working and how that all looks and what the impact on me financially would be if I achieved it. Like, what would that look like?
Yeah.
And it kind of hit me, you know, women aren't being included in these conversations. Women aren't being included in the process. A lot of them don't even sometimes know what assets the family, the household has. And that's a completely different conversation, you know, if that relationship breaks down. But here I am.
Where it is, who has it, what's the company you're using, you know,
what's access, how do you get it? Here I am suddenly in the most vulnerable position I've ever been in. And I've messed up my childcare hours, so I'm going to be £2,000 down what I was expecting right at the end of my mat leave in the no pay section. You know, and the flexible working wasn't what I was expecting in an industry that had always kind of talked about the advisor role being one that was really, really flexible. You know, you own your clients, you work with your clients around your schedule. So there was all this kind of panic and kind of stress and like, who's looking out for me? Who's looking out for the women like me? And I started speaking quite bluntly about my experience on LinkedIn, and actually it really resonated with a lot of women, and I was speaking to a lot more women kind of going through those same, you know, kind of big life events, starting businesses, growing their family, divorce, or, you know, being widowed, and like really struggling with who to talk to and finding someone that they can relate with. And then I had another kind of milestone where I was like, I can't help these women, right? And you will go, well, why not? They need your help, you want to help them. Because traditionally, financial advice is structured in a way to only really be profitable and work as a business to support people with a higher net worth.
Yeah.
Because largely it's based on percentage charging. And,
yeah.
You know, you have to run the numbers, and at a certain point, you're losing money by helping people with less money.
Yeah.
Which isn't
sustainable. Oh, yeah. I just felt that as well. Yeah. Because, you know, again, these women are probably part of a household, but don't have the access to that in order to get the advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're really at these crossroads where actually they might not be multimillionaires now or have 500,000 assets under management is all the lingo, but they might not have these, but they're in these big transitional stages where actually who am I, or, you know, Joe Blogs down the road, to say that they won't be that client in a few years' time.
Yeah.
With the right support. And it's these kind of points where I actually think financial advice can have the most impact on someone's long-term wealth. So that's kind of where I was like, right,
what am I going to do about it?
I need flexibility. I need to take control of my situation for my own family's dynamic. I need to be able to help more people like me, and I need to try and help the industry see some of these potholes, the shortfallings, that kind of people are falling into, the bad habits. So that's where I was like, right, if you somebody said a saying a few weeks ago that really resonated. It was, if you get tired of knocking on doors, build your own house.
Oh, I like that one.
I loved it, yeah, because I couldn't find the house that spoke to me. I couldn't find the house that was not just helping women in a marketing sense, but actually putting the work in and setting up to help women as a career, but also as clients. And that's where I was like, right, that's where I can come in and build something really different and do something I'm really passionate about and build it in a way that can help as many people as possible while still being a functioning business.
So inspirational, especially when you learn it yourself, you feel it yourself, because I think then when you're selling it to other people, it's like, okay, this person gets me. This is the house I need to be in, right?
Yeah.
And so how did you approach then building that house? What was your kind of career moment where you were like, right, okay, this is what I've got to do?
It was a slow burn, regulated world.
Yeah. Lots of red tape.
Lots of red tape, lots of hoops to jump through. There were certain kind of criteria I had to meet before I could leave my old role, so that when I went in, created my new role, that I could just kind of go straight in and hit the ground running. So it was a good kind of, I want to say like 6 months of putting work in kind of in the behind scenes world. Lots of interviewing, lots of applications, lots of business plan drafting, really, especially like the charging structure, really working out how I can make it accessible in a wider sense without kind of stabbing
but also make it make sense for you. Yeah.
Because in my mind, it just needs to be fair value. I need to be able to sit in front of someone and confidently explain why my charging is what my charging is, why I think it's worth value and affordable for them. And yeah, there was a few iterations I had to go through to figure that out. But where I'm at now, it feels really good. So yeah, it was about 6 months of background work, all of that. And then I finally kind of finished my last employed role, and got my FCA approval all through, got my letters to advise, which was very exciting, and launched officially kind of start of March this year.
Amazing. And so as part of that, presumably you also give not just the advice, but some support, because women, I've just gone through 12 months of coaching, not financial advice, but financial coaching, to kind of repair my habits, belief systems around what I spend on, how I manage my money, why I do the things that I do. And it was so eye-opening. And I think, gosh, I wish I'd done this like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, because it starts young as well, doesn't it? It's like, the sign that you get outside university that says you can get a credit card if you deposit £1 today or whatever. And then you've got a student loan before you've even started working, then fast forward, you start your first job, you're losing half of it to PAYE, your student loan, rent, because they're not buying houses right now unless you've got parents that can give you a whopping great big deposit. So it isn't just for that section, is it? It's also for these founders and these mums to kind of set their kids up to know more about that financial health, do you think?
Massively. Yeah, massively. And that's where there's a lot of lingo in the finance world. There's all the acronyms, blah, 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 blah. But in my role specifically, you have a lot of people talk about financial advisors, wealth managers, and financial planners, and they're kind of all the same thing.
Okay.
They're kind of all the same thing, but a lot of it, you can tell a lot about what a professional identifies with, about how they view the advice profession. So wealth managers, typically, their conversations are going to be about the yield of your investments, the tax efficiency. Last year you were worth this year you were worth this. See you next year. Right? Financial advisors, it's a bit more strategic generally. Again, this is all very generalizing, but generally it's a bit more strategic. You're looking at tax planning, you're looking at intergenerational planning. It's more kind of advisory, right? You're kind of stepping more into that family. Financial planning, the outlook there is that you're taking it that one step further, because yes, you're doing the advice, you want to build the wealth, but really you want to build it in a way that is unique for the individual in front of you. And a lot of that comes into, well, what's that individual's relationship with money? What's their parents' relationship with money? How have they spoken about money in front of your client as they've been growing up? What are their traumas? Have they been financially abused before? Because that's becoming a much larger conversation. People are becoming a lot more aware of what that kind of financial abuse can look like. And I think it's a lot more common than people want to be aware
To admit, yeah. Debt's a lot more common than we
of.
like to admit as well, isn't it? And it is definitely a weight that we carry.
And it's such a shame spiral. It's so easy to get into these shame spirals and put yourself down. And, something I hear more than anything else is, I'm just not good with money. I'm just not good with
I've
money.
said it myself.
I'm sure everyone has, but that doesn't really exist. Like, money is a tool. Would you say, like, I'm just not good with hammer?
Yeah, I'm not good with cheese.
I'm not good with cheese. But maybe it's not like your skill set, but it's something you can learn, right?
And something everybody can learn, right? And I think one of the things that I love about coaching is just shifting that from, so one of my things is I've shifted from I'm not good with money to I'm getting better at managing my money. I'm learning how to do X with my money. And I think you're absolutely right. And again, more often than not with women, we are so hard on ourselves. And so we're like, oh my God, I'm terrible with money. I can't do this and I can't do that. And my should is shit, in my opinion. It's one of the worst ones that we do to ourselves, and we do it to ourselves. Yeah. So top tips then, Danielle, what's like the starting point for someone coming to you and saying, I'm not good with money. I need to figure this out. I'm a new mum. Maybe I've started a business. I need some help. What's the sort of starting point?
So I go through a really clear kind of process with every single person I work with. First of all, I always want to know why. Why now? Why have you come to me? What's pushed you over the edge? What's the feeling that you're suddenly uncomfortable with? Is it you can't sleep because you're thinking about the debt? Is it something's changing? Maybe your kid's going to start school in a couple of years and you're not sure how that's going to change everything. You're unhappy with work or your relationship. What is it that's kind of said, no, now's the moment I need to change this?
To do something.
Yeah. That really helps me understand what the motives are, what the motivation is, and how I can help you stay accountable, right? Because a plan's only as good as being implemented. Yeah. So actually what motivates you, I need to understand that from day one. Day two is your why. So what does the future look like? What are you trying to achieve? Why are you trying to achieve it? If you're looking to reduce your debt, why? Is it because it stresses you out? Is it because you get embarrassed to tell your friends that you've got, lots of money on credit cards? Is it because actually once you've cleared it, you can't wait to get that new one so you can get that car? Like, why? Yeah. And then it's looking at, what does the future look like? What if nothing went wrong? If everything went to the plan, what would the plan be? What's 5 years look like? 10 years? 50? Is it buying a new house? Would you, if you had the money and everything had gone well,
what would you do? Yeah, I love the blank piece of page. What's your dream goal?
Yeah, travel the world, sell the house, buy a boat, and these are real goals and plans that people have come to me with. Like, yeah, I want to sell the house and spend maternity leave sailing around on a boat. Okay, let's figure it out. Because then that's where I come in. I say, like, right, here's where you are, here's where you want to be. The advisor part is how to then build out the steps to get you from where you are to where you want to be. What do we need to do? What are the actionable steps that we need to make to get you there? And then the coaching comes in for the accountability and to make sure we
stick to it.
The thing, right?
Do the things, do the homework.
Always start with your what and your why, and then I think, again, it's the real basics, but sitting down and actually going through your budget. How much are you spending? How much do you have coming in? Where are the holes in the bucket? Where are the is it the meal deals? And I'm not going to say don't buy your coffee every day and you'll afford a house or anything stupid like that, but know where your money is going, right?
It's a priority thing, isn't it? Because I love a takeaway coffee, but equally when you look at how much you've racked up over a month. So I don't love to do it, actually. I really hate to do it. But when you look at what you've spent over the month and you're like, okay, I think the first time I did it, most of my money had gone on coffees and Uber. And I was like, I've got nothing to show for that. Number one, I should be walking. Number two, I've got like really nice Yeti takeaway cups and a coffee machine at home. Do I want to spend that money on something else? Or do I want to have the Uber and the coffee? Because actually, if that suits me, that's okay, but it means that I can't have something else potentially.
Exactly. And that's what I always try and say about budgeting. It's got quite a bad rep of being very restrictive. And again, statistically speaking, women are very, very good at saving already. We're already very good at restricting ourselves, unfortunately. what the budget should be doing is covering your bills, covering your essentials, giving you some spend for your lifestyle. So lifestyle spend is whatever it is that makes you feel like the hard work is worth the life you're living, right?
Yeah.
So for some people, the convenience of an Uber and a coffee on the way to work means that they get to spend longer in the mornings with their kids rather than getting the train. Little things like, if that's what's important to you, make sure you've got some space in your budget for it. The section people often forget is your future. So you don't want your lifestyle spend to be taking over your whole future. You don't want to be living a lifestyle that's so to your means or above your means that actually you're not preparing for future life. And that could be retirement, it could be giving things to your kids, it could just be rainy days. So we tend to look at like a 50% essential bills, you know, mortgage, all that kind of stuff, 30% to your lifestyle and 20% to your future as a rough guide. If you're miles off, have a look, have a tweak.
And do you think that we're talking about it enough? Because we are talking about it more now, aren't we? But I certainly, you know, when I was younger, we weren't talking about it at all. But I also see such a shift in how we operate because we want convenience, we want the delivery, we want Amazon the next day.
Yeah.
And actually, because of that fast ability to click and buy, we're potentially ignoring that piece of planning which could make our lifestyle completely different. Do you think we're talking about that enough?
I think we could always talk about it more. I think where I fall is I think women talk about it quite a lot already. I think especially women who are parents, mothers, however their setup is, I think quite often we're already very aware of that budget. I think where women aren't being spoken to enough is the investing side, so that future. And you know, I've spoken to lots and lots and lots of families recently who have got a really comfortable budget going. They're comfortable. They're happy talking about their budget. They've come to me with their spreadsheets already in hand and, you know, they're really on it in the budgetary sense. But then when we start talking about like an emergency buffer, that's not to be heard of. And that is, you know, if you take nothing else away from this call, have an emergency buffer. It can be hard work to get it to a decent size. Typically aim for around 3 to 6 months of that emergency, of that essential spend, the 50%.
The 50.
Yeah. So if you can have 3 to 6 months of, if we both lost our job tomorrow, we would be okay for 6 months. We wouldn't have the Ubers and the takeaway dinners, but we would be able to pay the bills,
survive,
get the bare essentials, groceries in and survive for 6 months. How much relief do you get from that? You know, and maybe it's not.
And there's a huge amount happening in the job market, right? And I think this directly applies to careers too, because I know that I've said some ridiculous things in my career. For example, I remember saying to one of my bosses, don't worry about me in this pay run. We need to give the head of IT a bump. Like from a budgetary point of view, I put myself back. And I know that I've done that many, many times. And I think from a career perspective, not only do we need to be talking about investment and wealth, we need to be giving women confidence to say, I'm valuable, I'm worth this, this is what I should command in this workplace, and have the like kahunas to say, I'm going to walk if you don't pay that. Because I've had guys come and sit when I've been in HR, sit opposite me and say, I've got another job. If you want me to stay, then you need to pay me this and I want the promotion. And I've gone, no. You know, my instinct has said no. And the business has then gone, okay, we need to keep him. We really want him around. And I'm like, should I be doing this? Like, you know, we have got a different way of approaching money. And I think we've got to get more comfortable with pushing, particularly in our careers, because before we have the family, or even if we don't have a family and we're, you know, single white female living alone and we have a house and we've got all this. Exactly. Right. And I've heard about these women like having houses together and stuff like later on in life. I love that idea. You know, for every walk of life, we've got to get on top of this financial conversation, haven't we?
Absolutely. And again, it's all coming back to that confidence and backing yourself. And I think if you're going through these exercises of what do you want, why do you want it, where are you now, what's your now situation, looking at your budget, some things, because let's be real, we're in a cost of living crisis, bills are going up every day, it feels like. So sometimes looking at that budget can be uncomfortable for reasons outside of your control. So ultimately you've got to step back and say, well, what is within my control? If fighting for that payroll that actually you probably are entitled to, you probably are worth, you probably are, you know, just as good as anybody else going for, go for it. Because these are the things within your control. If you own your own business, put yourself out there, be a bit awkward, put yourself in uncomfortable rooms. You started what you started because you're passionate about it, because you love it, because you see a need for it. So
it's overcoming that initial fear, isn't it? And just going for it and being bold. And I think we could do with that in both the workplace and in business. Definitely. For a lot of women.
One thing I really worry about is there's such a strong narrative to women, especially, about saving, about do this questionnaire and do this piece of feedback and you'll get £1 per questionnaire and you'll, here's the cash back and, all these little schemes and money making tips. And they're so minuscule and they're so time intensive, but they're all marketed at women. Whereas men are being marketed investing, right? They're being marketed stocks and shares and Bitcoin and ISAs, and they don't know any more than us about these topics, but because they're being spoken to about it so frequently, they've got the confidence to. And because we're being spoken to so infrequently about it, it sounds alien and scary and we're afraid to do it wrong, so we choose to do nothing at all. And
so more conversations, more investment, more being bold and asking for what you're worth because you are worthy.
And asking for help if we need it. I think there's so much, again, pressure on women to do it all. To run the house, run the business, excel in the career, manage the budget, make sure you don't go into debt, repay any debt that you do, get dinner on the table by 7, make sure it's balanced, don't forget the gym. There's so much.
Drink your water, take your supplements.
Water today, this heat wave. There's just so much pressure from every single angle. And I think, obviously, I've spent 10 years learning about investing. Obviously, if you're doing all of that, you don't have the same free time to learn everything you could possibly need to know. You can learn enough and you can be confident enough to get the basics going. 100% you can. I'm not ever going to come on a talk like this and ever say investing's too complicated to do it yourself. You absolutely can. But if it feels too overwhelming and it feels too scary and it feels like too much of a beast to take on, and your gut reaction is to say, I'll just do it another day. I'll just look at it another time. And that includes things like junior ISAs for your kids or junior pensions, because it all feels scary and big. If that's what's holding you back, just ask someone for help. Just start the process. I work with lots of people where I give them the plan and I say, do you know what, you go away and do this yourself. You don't need to pay me every month for the coaching and the management. You can do this. You just needed a steer. You just needed the go that way.
Yeah.
And that can be such a relief for people, being like, I thought I was going to have to.
And there's a huge amount of relief when you take control, isn't there? Yeah, of what you can control, for sure. Danielle, thank you so much for your insights and loads of hot tips in there. Really appreciate it. To leave the listeners with a piece of music that you love that gets you fired up.
Oh, I'm a bit of a grungy rock girly.
Are you? Okay.
Anything by Prodigy, Pendulum.
Okay. So a fire starter.
Yes. Yeah, I took my toddler to see Prodigy last summer. So go for that. Go for a bit of fire starter.
Love that. So you heard it here first. Fire starter and get control and confidence for your financial wealth. Thank you very much for your time today.
And also, if anybody wants to reach out, my DMs are always open. Obviously, I cannot give advice over DMs or anything like that, but I can always point in directions for helpful articles and also just have a bit of a vent. So if anyone wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to chat.
Amazing. Thank you, Danielle.